The beaches of Long Island hide a dark secret. Along Ocean Parkway, a stretch of coastal road has become a killing field. 10 victims discovered, possibly multiple killers. But one question remains. Who is the Long Island serial killer? On a cold December morning in 2010, Officer John Malia and his cadaver dog Blue were conducting a routine training exercise. They were searching for Shannan Gilbert, a 24-year-old escort who had vanished months earlier after frantically running from a client's house in nearby Oak Beach. What they found instead would uncover one of America's most chilling, unsolved serial killer cases. The first body wasn't Shannan's. Wrapped in burlap and hidden in the thick bramble alongside Ocean Parkway was Melissa Bartholomew, a 24-year-old escort from Buffalo, New York. In the days that followed, 3 more bodies were discovered in similar conditions: Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Megan Waterman, and Amber Lynn Costello. All 4 women were petite, in their 20s, and worked as escorts who advertised on Craigslist. But this was just the beginning. As spring thawed the frozen ground in 2011, more victims emerged. Jessica Taylor, whose torso had been found years earlier in Manorville, now had her head and limbs discovered along Ocean Parkway. An unidentified Asian male wearing women's clothing. A female toddler. The toddler's mother was found miles away. More partial remains connected to cold cases. The body count kept rising, and with each discovery, the mystery deepened. The killer's methodology was sophisticated. He showed an understanding of police investigation techniques, using disposable cell phones to contact victims and making calls from crowded areas in Manhattan to avoid detection. Most chillingly, he used Melissa Bartholomew's phone to taunt her teenage sister with 7 calls over the course of 6 weeks, each lasting less than 3 minutes, just short enough to prevent accurate tracking. During these calls, he described in graphic detail what he had done to Melissa. The calls always came late at night, and the killer seemed to derive pleasure from the psychological torture he was inflicting. He asked Melissa's sister if she knew what her sister did for a living, making it clear he had intimate knowledge of his victim's life. Police believed he was watching the sister's reactions through news coverage, timing his calls for maximum impact. The investigation revealed a pattern. The killer targeted sex workers, specifically those who advertised on Craigslist. He would arrange meetings, pick up his victims, and later dispose of their bodies along Ocean Parkway. The burlap sacks used to wrap some victims suggested someone familiar with the fishing or construction industries. The level of forensic awareness displayed in hiding and disposing of the bodies pointed to someone with possible law enforcement or medical training. One of the most compelling aspects of the case is the geographic profile. The killer showed an intimate knowledge of the Long Island area, particularly the maze-like roads and secluded spots along Ocean Parkway. This wasn't just a dumping ground of convenience. It was a carefully chosen location that allowed the killer to operate undetected for years. The case became even more complex when investigators began to suspect they might be dealing with multiple killers. The different disposal methods, some victims wrapped in burlap, others dismembered, some simply left exposed, suggested possibly 2 or even 3 different perpetrators using the same stretch of beach as their dumping ground. Then there was Shannan Gilbert, the woman whose disappearance had inadvertently led to the discovery of the others. When her body was finally found in December 2011, it was in a marsh half a mile from where she was last seen alive. Unlike the other victims, she wasn't wrapped in burlap, and her death was initially ruled as drowning due to accidental causes. However, her family has always maintained she was a victim of foul play, possibly connected to the other murders. The investigation into Shannan's death revealed disturbing details about the gated Oak Beach community where she was last seen. Her last known client, Joseph Brewer, passed a polygraph test and was cleared of involvement. But the behavior of Dr. Peter Hackett, a former emergency services director living nearby, raised questions. He called Shannan's mother days after her disappearance, claiming he had taken her in and given her medication at his home, a story he later denied before changing his account multiple times. The hunt for the killer's identity has produced several compelling theories, each supported by distinct patterns in the evidence. The most prominent theory, endorsed by several senior investigators, points to someone deeply embedded in law enforcement. This theory is supported by the killer's extraordinary ability to avoid surveillance cameras, his knowledge of cell phone tracking limitations, and his sophisticated understanding of how missing person investigations work. The killer demonstrated an intimate knowledge of police blind spots. He knew, for instance, that calls under 3 minutes were harder to trace, and he consistently contacted victims from locations in Manhattan where surveillance coverage was spotty or overwhelmed by the volume of people. He also understood that sex workers were less likely to be reported missing immediately, giving him crucial time to dispose of evidence. A second major theory suggests the killer could be a medical professional or someone with advanced medical training. This is supported by several key pieces of evidence. The precise nature of some dismemberments, which showed knowledge of human anatomy. The lack of defensive wounds on victims, suggesting the possible use of sedatives. And the methodical way bodies were positioned and concealed, indicating someone comfortable with handling human remains. The killer's choice of dump sites along Ocean Parkway also suggests someone familiar with Long Island's complex geography. He knew which areas were secluded enough for body disposal, but accessible enough for quick getaways. This points to someone who either lives in or frequently works in the area, possibly a commuter who regularly travels between Manhattan and Long Island. Behavioral analysts have created a detailed profile of the killer. They believe he is likely a white male between 45 and 55 years old, as of 2010, financially stable and well-educated. He probably maintains a respectable public persona and may even be married with children. The level of organization in his crimes suggests someone who can compartmentalize their life effectively, appearing normal and trustworthy to those around him while harboring his violent impulses. The killer's phone calls to Melissa Barthelomy's sister reveal additional clues about his personality. His voice was described as mature and well-spoken, without a strong accent. He was calm and controlled during these calls, suggesting someone comfortable with high-stress situations. The fact that he made these calls indicates a desire for attention and control, yet he was disciplined enough to never stay on the line long enough to be traced. One particularly disturbing theory suggests the killer might work in the funeral or mortuary industry. This would explain his access to burlap material, sometimes used in funeral homes, his comfort with human remains, and his ability to dispose of bodies without drawing attention. It would also provide him with legitimate reasons to transport large, heavy objects without arousing suspicion. The investigation has been hampered by jurisdictional issues, with multiple police departments involved and, at times, working at cross purposes. The Suffolk County Police Department, Nassau County Police Department, and New York State Police have all been involved, along with the FBI. This fragmented approach may have allowed crucial evidence to slip through the cracks. Recent developments have brought new hope to the case. In 2020, investigators released images of a belt found at one of the crime scenes, embossed with the letters HM or WH, depending on orientation. This was the first time this crucial piece of evidence was shared with the public, suggesting investigators might be closer to identifying a suspect. The introduction of genetic genealogy techniques, which have helped solve other cold cases, offers new possibilities for identifying both unknown victims and potentially the killer himself. The FBI has continued to provide resources and support, and a task force remains actively dedicated to solving these murders. The Long Island serial killer case represents one of the largest unsolved serial killer investigations in American history, with at least 10 victims confirmed and possibly more yet to be discovered. The killer's ability to evade capture while operating in one of the most densely populated regions of the country is both remarkable and terrifying. The socioeconomic aspects of this case cannot be ignored. The killer specifically targeted sex workers, many of whom came from disadvantaged backgrounds or struggled with addiction. This choice of victims allowed him to operate longer without detection, as missing sex workers often receive less immediate attention from law enforcement and the media. The case has exposed troubling biases in how missing persons cases are handled when the victims are sex workers. Several families of victims have criticized the initial police response, noting that their loved ones' disappearances weren't taken seriously until the connection to a serial killer became apparent. Today, Ocean Parkway remains a grim reminder of these unsolved murders. The beach grass still bends in the Atlantic wind, concealing dark secrets beneath the sand. Somewhere, perhaps nearby, the killer might still be watching, aware that every new technological advance brings investigators one step closer to his door. The case continues to captivate amateur sleuths and true crime enthusiasts, spawning countless theories and discussions online. Every few years, a new lead emerges, offering hope to the victims' families who still await justice. The killer's sophisticated methods, possible law enforcement connections, and the sheer number of victims make this one of the most compelling unsolved cases in modern criminal history. Whoever the Long Island serial killer is, he demonstrates a frightening combination of intelligence, forensic knowledge, and predatory patience. His ability to operate undetected in one of America's most populous regions suggests someone hiding in plain sight, perhaps someone who has followed the investigation all along, confident in their ability to stay one step ahead of the law. Until the day this killer is caught, the beaches of Long Island will carry an invisible scar, and the families of his victims will continue their tireless quest for justice. Each passing year brings new investigative techniques and possibilities, and perhaps, somewhere in the evidence already gathered, lies the key to solving this haunting mystery. If you want to dive deeper into more unsolved mysteries and criminal cases that continue to baffle investigators, make sure to subscribe to Into the Unknown. Every week, we explore another fascinating case that pushes the boundaries of conventional investigation and challenges our understanding of human nature. Hit that subscribe button and join us as we venture further into the darkest corners of criminal history. This is Into the Unknown, where some mysteries remain exactly that, unknown,